Welcome into Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Yes, it's me. A little bit less beard, a little bit cleaner hairs because I'm going on vacation this weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit, but it is me. I've been covering Phillies baseball for years over at 97.5 The Fanatic, and now with you here on Locked On Phillies. Got a great Friday episode for you today. We're ranking all the NL East teams. It's our final ranking, so it's the teams in total. We have a little bit of we're going time traveling? What? Yeah, I'll explain that in our second segment. And we have the closer where I introduce our off the poll for the weekend. And we recap what we went through this week. Take a look forward to next week. Got all of that coming up. Busy show. Can't wait to get started. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get going.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, so it's finally time. Over the past couple weeks, so this week and last week, we went through and painstakingly part by part rather, we broke down the NL East division and decided where each team ranks starting rotation, bullpen, fielding, lineup, manager, and now it's finally time for the team overall, as I see it, where everybody ranks in the NL East. We're going to start bottom to top and get everything going. This, for me, is the simplest one because we already did all the smaller parts. Now we have to put those parts together and see what whole thing they make. But I think you should already have a good idea of where this breaks out if you've watched my other episodes. If not, go back, check them out. A lot of good information on my thoughts and some data on those certain facets of teams rank where they do. So let's start it out. Total teams in general. Number 5 in the NL East, the basement of the division this year in my mind. Of course, it's the Washington Nationals. They could very well be the basement of baseball in general this year. They could be the worst team in Major League Baseball. Now, there's other teams they'll vie with, Pittsburgh mainly, who refuses to pay players. But Washington sold everybody except Juan Soto and Josh Bell off this past year. Their lineup is bereft of talent. They don't have too many guys coming up that are all that exciting for this year to make an impact. The pitching staff's been underwhelming. Max Scherzer, gone. He's now with the New York Mets, a division rival, and it's a tough division. It's going to be really hard for Washington to put up anything close to a 500 record. They're going to be easily in the basement of the division this year because they're at the very start of a rebuild. Year one, you very rarely ever see results from teams in those type of situations. So sorry, Washington Nationals fans. You got a long season ahead of you. Well, it might not be as long unless MLB comes with deals sometime soon. We'll talk about that in a second. In 4th place in the division, in my mind, these are my rankings. You can disagree. I think I'm right. In 4th place in the division, I've got the Miami Marlins. They're a really, really talented young team, but they're in a tough division. If they were in another division, if they were in like the Central, I might be looking at them to be in the top 3 teams in a division, but not in the NL East, not this year. They're more victim of circumstance, and it's something that we talked about with their lineup, with their pitching staff, because they did have a solid year on the bump last year, especially from their bullpen. But for me, the Miami Marlins are still too young to catch up to the Phillies, Braves, Mets, teams like that. I just don't think they have enough star power top to bottom in their lineup. I think they have some good, solid pitching at the top of their rotation, but I still think the depth needs to get filled out. And I don't think the exceptional bullpen that they had last year is going to stay the same. I think there's a natural regression for a lot of the guys that they have in the pen that overperformed what you would expect from them last season. So that's why I've got the Marlins at number 4. Coming in at number 3, I've got your Philadelphia Phillies. I think they could potentially bump up to 2. There's some interesting free agent stuff going on that we're going to talk about with the next team in our rankings. But as right now, as currently constructed, the Phillies are the 3rd best team in the NL East. It's like I said with the Marlins, it's a victim of circumstance. There might be a division out there where they're the 2nd best team, even potentially the 1st best team, because they are returning the NL Cy Young runner-up. They are returning the NL MVP. Of course, that's Zach Wheeler and Bryce Harper, respectively. They have some other good pieces. They have money to spend in free agency. And if they want to clear the luxury tax for the first time in franchise history, there are some big names out there that can make this team really competitive. But the bullpen's still a big question mark. The manager needs to prove a little bit more to me. The lineup is potent and the rotation is solid, but they've got to prove some things in the field and also with the lineup card that make me feel more comfortable with this team. They'll be 500. They'll be better than 500. They should be. If they're below 500 with this roster, especially with some additions that they could make, it's going to be an absolute failure. But to say they're going to catch a team like the Mets, who are spending out the wazoo to try and create a winning baseball team up there in New York, and the Braves, who are the defending World Series champions, it just doesn't feel fair to put the Phillies there right now prior to them making one of these big free agent additions that I feel could be coming down the pipe when everything opens back up. Is it coming down the pike or coming down the pipe? I've always said, I think I've switched. I don't know. Get at me in the comments and let me know what you say, because I feel like that one could go either way. I digress. Let's get back to the rankings. So we've got Nationals 5, Marlins 4, Phillies 3, the second best team in the division. It's your defending World Series champions. I've got the Atlanta Braves at 2, and they could very easily slip down to 3 if they lose Freddie Freeman. Now, remember, Atlanta wasn't that good of a team in the regular season last year. The Phillies actually held a lead in the division late into the season. I think even the start of September. It was either late August or early September. The Phillies were holding down first place in the division last year. The Braves just got hot at the right time. They ran through the playoffs, and they became a Cinderella story that actually worked out. One of the few that actually ends in a championship with that type of pedigree. They lost Ronald Acuna. They lost Mike Soroka. They had major injuries across the lineup, across the rotation, in the bullpen, and yet they overcame all of it. Part of it is a great managing job by Brian Snitker that he did last year that I think should have won him NL Manager of the Year. But, of course, that award is decided prior to the it's not based on the playoffs, rather, I mean to say. So he could not get that after the World Series. Whole thing there. But bottom line is the Braves had a really solid year. I think there's going to be a little bit of a regression because they got so hot. And I don't think it's even that much of a regression compared to the talent they showed in the regular season. Now, if Acuna comes back and he's amazing, great. They're going to be better. If Soroka comes back and he's healthy, great for them. Not great for the Phillies. I'm saying great from the Braves lens, of course. I hope they stink. I hope all these teams stink. I hope the Phillies go 162-0 if they play 162 games. But if that stuff works out for the Braves, they could go up as high as 1. But if Freddie Freeman decides he wants to play in another uniform for the first time in his career, they could drop below the Phillies. They could even drop below the Miami Marlins. The Braves have a steep cliff they could fall off if they lose Freddie Freeman and if some of these other big pieces, the Acunas, the Sorokas, don't come back healthy. It's a lot to watch. So they're my most variable team in these rankings. And number 1, it pains me to say this, but I think the best team in the NL East this year is going to be the New York Mets, simply because their new owner, not new anymore, he was the owner of the team last year, but Steve Cohen is just resigned to throw money at this team until it frickin' works. And he's going to spend and spend and spend. He's already done it with Max Scherzer. He already brought in Francisco Lindor last year. He moved on from Javier Baez to open up more room to sign another great free agent this offseason. In addition to Max Scherzer, this team could get even more dangerous. Do they bring back Michael Conforto? Do they sign a Nick Castellanos? Do they go out and get a Kyle Schwarber to put it in their new DH role? There's a whole lot that this team can do that could be very, very dangerous for the rest of the NL East. And they have the pocketbooks, or rather, one man does. Steve Cohen has the pocketbook to make it happen. Now, the Mets are the Mets. I still think they'll fall apart eventually, but I can't fairly base these rankings on, oh, well, they're the Mets. They always collapse. I don't think that's right, and I don't think that's good information. I'm ranking them the talent level. They could still collapse, and I'd be happy to see them do so. But right now, they're the most talented, top to bottom, when all things are considered, manager, with Buck Showalter now taking over the reins up there. I think he's going to do a solid job as a veteran manager. Lineup, rotation, bullpen, fielding, all of that puts the Mets 1. So let's recap. Mets 1, Braves 2, Phillies 3, Nationals in 5. I keep wanting to put them higher. Marlins in 4, Nationals in 5th place, And that's how I see the NL East stacking out this season. We'll have on Monday or Tuesday the roundtable for you where I get with all the other hosts of NL East Locked On podcast. So we'll talk through it and see if everyone agrees with my rankings. And you get at me in the comments. Let me know on Twitter. Tweet at me. Message me. Do whatever you need to do. Let me know what you think. I love your feedback on the content that we put out here on Locked On Phillies. We're trying a new segment now here coming up. We're going to time travel a little bit. So what I'm doing here, I'll talk to you in a little unique situation that could happen from time to time as I go through doing this podcast with you guys for you. Situations pop up, life pops up, and it changes around schedules a little bit. And there's times where we're going to have to change the physics of time. Time physics? I don't know. I'm not a science guy. Change time around to work to our benefit. I'll tell you more about that in just a second. I do want to tell you about Built Bar, though. No flexing today. I flexed on Wednesday's episode. I got the sweatshirt on because it's a little bit colder. But make no mistake, summer's right around the corner. And the best way you can get in great shape for summer is using Built Bar. They've got these new protein-infused marshmallows, the puffs, some great flavors, cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. And have you ever gotten protein from a marshmallow before? Nah, I didn't think so. Okay, maybe you're not a marshmallow person. Well, they have the regular bars too. And listen to some of these great flavors. Oh, they got mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. That sounds so good. And it tastes like a candy bar because they got 100% chocolate. Built Bar is great with this. Their main thing, they make stuff healthy, but their key is at Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, and then they figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every single time. So I want you to go to built.com and put in promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, so we're doing a little bit of time traveling now. Let me explain to you how this segment's going to work. I'm literally just going to call it the time traveler. I've been saying it enough. Might as well call it that. So, full disclosure, bringing you into the personal life of one Connor Thomas here real quick. I've got a bachelor party in New Orleans this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm going to be down in the Big Easy. I'm going to be hanging out with a college buddy who's getting married. Can't wait. It's going to be a great time. But what that means is it's going to be difficult for me to get up-to-date content to you just for a couple days. I'll recap everything, and I'll do what I can. There'll be little snippets that I'll probably have out if what we're talking about in this segment actually happens. But there will be times where life pops up, and I have to record these episodes ahead of time. Right now, it's Thursday at about 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when I'm recording this. But we've got something that could break. It sounds like the lockout is very close to being over. We're getting news from insiders. The Bob Nightingales, the Jeff Passons of the world are telling us, hey, we might be close. Well, Passon got hacked earlier today, so he's not explicitly saying it. But the rumblings are that they've agreed on some type of international draft scenario where they push that down the road a little bit so they can agree to a CBA now. It sounds like the deal is close. So it's very possible by the time this comes out tomorrow that the MLB lockout is ended. And if not, maybe you're watching this episode Saturday, Sunday, some point in the future. I'm going to time travel a little bit and pretend that the lockout has ended, and we're going to give you my reaction in advance on this. It's kind of a fun little exercise where you can either laugh at how wrong I am or give me props for how right I am on what I think is going to happen over the next 24 hours or so until this episode debuts for you on YouTube and podcast. So here's what it is. Wow, I think the lockout's over. The lockout's going to be done. Everything's going to be wrapped up. They're going to have an agreement. And the best part, they're going to look like hypocrites even more. So they already look a little bit fishy, a lot fishy. The owners, the players, everyone involved in these negotiations, especially Rob Manfred, because of all of this fugazi. Oh, we can't fit in 162 games if we go past Monday, February 28th. Well, guess what, guys? It's March 10th. It'll be March 11th when this episode comes out. I'm time traveling. I need to say that right. It's March 11th. I'm still getting used to this time traveling. It's my first time. I feel like Harry Potter when he went in the chimney and like teleported for the first time, used the flute powder. Messes with your mind a little bit, so bear with me. It's March 11th and the lockout has ended, and we still have time to fit in 162 games. The MLB will play 162 games this year. They'll have to fit in those double headers. They'll have to work the schedule around a little bit. They've already talked about prior to extending the season a couple days. I think they will extend the season a couple days to make this work and make sure you get in 162. I think it's going to be a huge point of the players' agreement to make this deal happen, that they get 162 games in and they play all 162. So even though there were reports the past couple of days of canceling another series and banging the first 2 weeks of baseball entirely, I think they bring it all back. I think they rectify all of it. We're left with a sour taste in our mouths right now because this could have been done earlier. We could have done without the whole dog and pony show and all the stress that it caused us and all of the constant days of waiting for news that won't come. It was a childish negotiation. It turned off a lot of people towards baseball, but the fact of the matter is baseball is going to be back. We're going to have the crack of the bat, the pop of the mitt. Everything you love will get a minimal spring training, a shortened spring training in, where teams will rush if they're not already down there, and a lot of players and the staff are already down at spring training locations. I got New Orleans and spring break on my mind. They're already down at spring training locations, just waiting for the okay to get into the facility. I think we'll get an abbreviated spring training, and then everything will be ready to go by mid-April, and they'll fit the rest of the games in. That's me time traveling. Yeah, that's a terrible sound effect. Really, really bad, Connor. Please make fun of me for that as well. Maybe we'll work on something to edit in and get a little sounder or a graphic or something for you for the next time I have to time travel because I have an event. But that's your glimpse forward in time at the end of the MLB lockout, which I believe is a distinct possibility that could occur prior to this episode dropping at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, tomorrow being Friday, March 11th. And, of course, every Friday we do the MLB lockout update. Well, that's it. That's in place of it because I believe, fingers crossed, look, I've crossed my fingers here. I'm hoping and praying that the lockout will be over by the time you see this so that this jump forward in time, this time travel, looks a lot more smart than if the deal falls through on the table. But that's where we stand. That's the very first time traveler. I appreciate you bearing with me and humoring me. It's a fun little segment. It's a kind of a loose way to make up that time that I'm going to be missing when things pop up. You know, life happens. You have other stuff, other obligations, other events that were planned, things like that. So this is our way to get around it, and hopefully you enjoy it as much as I do, trying to be not Nostradamus. Nostradamus? Yeah, let's go with that. Connor Nostradamus when we do these time traveling segments. I crack myself up. On the other side, we're going to talk a little bit about, well, we've got the closer. So I'm going to have the off the poll segment for you where we give you what our question's going to be for this upcoming weekend. And it's going to be about two young players on the Phillies and who you see being the most productive over the course of the 2022 season. We'll talk about that and review what we went over this week and look forward to next week in just a second. And when this loads, there we go. I want to tell you about Locked On MLB Prospects. Now, thanks, as always, for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. Always want to be your first listen, but I want you to make your next listen Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. He will give you all the information you need about Phillies prospects, MLB prospects in general, draft information. Lindsey Crosby has it all. Make sure you check out his stuff. Again, that's Locked On MLB Prospects. Now, let me tell you about Bet Online. It's that time of year again. College basketball's tournament is finally upon us. I was looking at some last four in, first four out type of stuff today, getting all my bets ready to go. There's a better place to find that information than just randomly going on Google and trying to look stuff up, though. You can find all the latest odds, contests, and player props on betonline.net because they're your number one source for all of your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best. Listen again, the best. There's nobody better. There's no spot that's better at all for all of your sports scores, podcasts and news this season. And it's not just basketball. Bet Online has everything from live betting, even your favorite Vegas casino games, and all the information you need to make the smartest bets possible. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, it's time for the closer. We're wrapping up the week. We're shutting everything down. So let's review first what we went through this week. Before we get ahead, we got to close out the game we're on. So Monday, we went through and we ranked. It was the lineups in the NL East. We went through all that and told you where I think the lineups stack up for the Phillies and all the competitors in the division. Go ahead and check that out. We did a free agent spotlight on Freddie Freeman, who was our highest profile free agent that I think we did throughout all of our free agent spotlights so far. And we talked a little bit about our off the poll debate. Last week, that poll question was between Alec Bohm and Rhys Hoskins and who you'd like to see more time at the DH role played by. Next, on Wednesday's episode, we went through and we ranked the managers in the NL East. I told you I might think Joe Girardi is being a little bit harshly criticized by Philadelphia fans, myself included. We did another free agent spotlight. Chris Bryant, a guy who's been tied to the Phillies for a long time now, represented by Scott Boras. All of that information, why I think he could be a great fit for Philadelphia and why they should pursue him, is in that episode. And we wrapped up with stepping off, where we took a look at some new names that will be coming to the Phillies radio broadcast for the 2022 season. And of course, today, you heard earlier, went through and I gave you my breakdown of where all the NL East teams rank in total. And we gave you a little bit of an MLB lockout update with our first ever time traveler segment. Now, looking forward to this next week. Oh, it's going to be a big week. I'm hoping the lockout's over. So we're going to have it's going to be a quick rush. It's going to be like snap content. So much new stuff coming out, getting you prepped for opening day for the 2022 season. Hopefully we'll have a date for that next week. We're going to go through and have a roundtable on all of those lists we've been putting together. I haven't been ranking the NL East teams for no reason. I haven't been coming up with these off the top of my head. This is something all the MLB, Locked On MLB podcasts are doing. And it's something that we'll discuss with Locked On Mets, Locked On Nationals, Locked On Braves, Locked On Marlins. We'll all get together. We'll have a roundtable. You'll get to see all of us discuss our rankings and probably argue a little bit about whose rankings are dumb, whose are smart, everything like that. You know how these Northeast fan bases and teams are. Well, we're just like you. We're fans. We love to argue, so you'll get an enjoyment out of that. That's coming early this next week. And then we'll just have this off the poll segment. I'll jump into that, and we may do off the poll as a separate clip, depending on how everything goes with the roundtable, because that will take up the majority of time of one of the earlier episodes this next week. But we'll always do off the poll. And this week, the question is as follows. Which of these young players do you think makes more of an impact at the major league level in 2022? Mickey Moniak or Bryson Stott? Now, it's an interesting question. You got to consider who's going to spend more time at the major league level. A couple outfield spots open, but also there's a need at shortstop. Will Bryson Stott even be called up? When will he be called up? Will Mickey Moniak be a starter in the outfield for the Phillies on opening day? A lot of stuff to consider. I'm very interested to see where you guys go on this. I'll post that in a Twitter poll at LO_Phillies, our Twitter account, and I'll retweet it from mine at Connor Thomas 975. You can see it right down there underneath my name. Go ahead and give me a follow, give the Locked On Phillies account a follow, and respond to that poll for me. Let me know what you're thinking. And on Monday or in a separate clip, depending on that roundtable we're doing, I'll go ahead and break down your response and how I feel about it, my thoughts on the issue. That'll be exciting. It's an exciting week. It seems like baseball's trending in the right direction. So hopefully when I roll back into town from New Orleans in one piece, that's another thing I'm hoping for. When I get back into Philadelphia, though, hopefully we'll have real live baseball on the horizon. I'm excited for it. You have a great weekend, and hopefully we get that good news coming up this weekend or early next week. I will talk to you on Monday. No, wait, I'll talk to you right now. I want to thank you one more time for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. Make sure you go and check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, rate us, review us on wherever you get your podcast. Tweet at me, tweet at the show. Get with us and make us your number one spot for all of your Philadelphia Phillies information. Now I want you to make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please make sure you call him Sully. He brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you check out Sully. He'll be a great fill-in for you while I'm gone on the weekend. And hopefully, again, we'll have some great news for you going into next week. That's all my time. I will talk to you all on Monday.